Morning, TransByDef. It's Jenna. How are you? Been a week or so since I posted, and we're getting ready to ramp things back up again. And Harley will be joining us, I believe, next week. This week's topic was using support groups. Why or why not? And for me, support groups were very, very important. As things are changing, younger people are just doing it, and they find their group of friends, and the culture of the groups that these people hang in today is more tolerant and more accepting than when I came out, even though things were better then. Using support groups has a lot of benefits. There's safety in numbers. Being with your own kind is really important. The therapy you receive for not feeling that you're alone or different kind of gets squashed. As you find out that you're not unique and that it's okay. Before I transitioned, I was very closeted. I had built this fortress around myself as a child that no one was going to penetrate and no one was going to know who was inside these stone walls that I built around myself. And I survived that way a long time. When it became time for me to come out, I did that through, and I've said in previous videos, in my EAP program at work, because by that point I had children and a home and a job, a long career, and keeping all those things were kind of important, but getting care for myself was equally as important. So I did get a therapist that helped guide me, and through my EAP, initially a Dr. Jimmy Walker, who was just, not Jim Walker, the alcohol either, but Dr. Walker got me hooked up with a bunch of different people, and eventually I found some transgender groups, a group called Renaissance Educational Association. They're in eastern Pennsylvania mostly, and just south of me down here by New Hope, and that became my social group to go to. There was 3 chapters that I attended, so that pretty much I had every weekend of the month covered except one, and that gave me time to go out, experiment, and to be myself and be with my own kind, and find a comfort level and a place of safety and security that I could explore this person that was inside me that was clawing its way out. It was really important for me. Some people don't require a support group. A lot of younger people don't. That doesn't mean that you don't need a therapist, because I think you do need somebody professional to bounce things off of. But the peace and socialness kept me from being isolated in this support group. When you go to a support group, you go there thinking you're unique and find out that you're not. And at times, I didn't think that I belonged there. There was some bizarre people there, and there were some people that had gone on with their lives, and some trans women that had gotten married and had families, and so I kind of knew that I was in the right place, and that for the time that I was going to need it, I was going to stay there. But the one thing I noticed as time evolved over a couple of years was that not everybody's going to transition. Not everybody, is transsexual under this transgender umbrella that we live under. But the group gave me a chance to explore myself and to grow as a person. And to do so, I mean, because previously the only thing I could do, like many people, was parade about in my house, and, change for some hours and live as Jenna for a while, and then revert back to my old persona. And I found, some really close friends that have evolved out of those groups. Two come to mind. One is now deceased. Taking care of yourself is important, especially your weight if you're on hormones. And I learned that lesson also because of support groups. So I think that, if you have the chance to go and explore yourself, don't compare yourself to others. You want to explore as yourself and let things sort themselves out. I found that to be very, very rewarding. There's the meetings that we would go to, the support group meetings, were both free form, organized, social cluster breakouts in separate little rooms that different topics were flying about, and then there was the main speaker for the night, and then afterwards most people would go out to a club or something like that. And that was great. For me, it was 6 or 7 hours on an evening, because it was far from my home. It was 6 or 7 hours on an evening getting out and being myself safely. So for me, the first time I went to a support group meeting, I was terrified. I did the come early, come late, leave early syndrome. Well, I didn't learn that yet. I went early and then wanted to get out early, and people drove me along to a club in New Hope, Pennsylvania. After the meeting, a girl there that was a cross-dresser, and I'm grateful for the people that reached out and held my hand when I was so scared and fumbling. But in short order, I became my own person and got comfortable. Sometimes maybe too comfortable. Leaving a club by yourself at night at 1 o'clock in the morning and walking through dark alleys and parking lots is probably really stupid, regardless whether you're trans or not. If you're a woman walking through that, you're looking for trouble, and it will find you. But I support using support groups. Doesn't mean that you stay forever. I, like many people that were transsexual, once they found their niche, they just started transition eventually, and slowly over a period of time, the need for that became less and less and less. And your social circles, again, recover and expand outward from where you shrunk to one person coming out in a group. You socialized again back out into the mainstream, and as a healthier individual, I think. I learned a lot of do's and not do's there. I became more tolerant of things that were outside my realm of what was normal, and I made some great acquaintances. I would wholeheartedly support using a support group. Reasons for why not, I can't come up with a lot. Some people, don't have the luxury, depending on where you live, of having a group nearby, especially if you get into the more rural areas of the country. So that may be impossible, except for going to conferences and stuff. That may be impossible to have an outlet, a normal outlet you could use on a regular basis. Not using one because you don't want to, don't feel you need to, I think is kind of foolish early on. Maybe not in time, but in the beginning, I think it's kind of foolish because you don't know what you don't know, and having someone that's walked the walk before you and has made mistakes will help alleviate those. So I have a hard time justifying not using them, if they're available to you. Um, what I sometimes I feel like I should go back to the group where I started, because I was, at one point I did run RAN at one point, and I was the national chair for a while, and I was, I was two different groups I belonged to in that organization. I was the liaison to the main national group. So I don't tell anybody that they have to do something, but I would suggest that if there's a support group you can go to early on, it's important. Now the youth today, I don't see them needing them as much. They have their own social circles, and as people are coming out today and things are changing, support groups are basically being put out of business. The need for that is diminishing in time. What I have seen in the inner city things, such as Allentown, Pennsylvania, just opened up an LGBT center. So those types of environments are beginning to expand and show up more often, and most colleges have that kind of group anyway. But towns, are starting to have these groups that give people that walk to a different drummer, so to speak, a different avenue of outlet. So for me, support groups in the beginning were very important, and I look forward to them. Most of the people that were in my support groups were in their 30s and up. So maybe some people in their 20s, mid-20s, but the younger folks they just did it. They just went out and did it. They were in your face. Gotta love genderqueer people in the beginning. I guess, my suggestion is, if you have one nearby and you haven't been to it, go hang out for a night. It's a night out. And maybe you meet some people that will impact your life in really positive ways. You take from them what you need, and you leave behind what you don't. And I miss my friend Leslie, who, when I first met her, and she was being so nice to me, I couldn't stand her, and turned out to be, one of my core people that I would go to when I needed to vent or talk and have outlet. And so, I really support the use of a support group. Now, YouTube has also stepped in and kind of diminished the need for support groups in one matter, because people are able, with this mass media that we have and the ability to contact each other and share back and forth, is just phenomenal. How that's changed how we socialize with each other, and how our group finds harmony within ourselves. I don't see support groups lasting forever, except the ones that are probably more aligned with a LGBT center. Ours was shrinking over the years, because basically the education work that was going on in our community was lessening the need for those groups, though that it'll always exist for older people that are transitioning or coming out. So I wholeheartedly support their use. If you disagree with me, I would love to argue with you why. But I look forward to what others have to say for this, and I look forward to Harley's returning next week. And we will talk to you soon. Weather looks a little bit clammy today, but that's okay. We'll get over it. Have a great week. Enjoy mid-July, and I'll see you next week. Peace. Bye.